We live in such uncertain times, don't we? It can feel really frightening and unsettling when we turn on the news or we hear what's going on in the world. Those of us that are in our 50s, 60s, 70s and beyond, we've lived through a lot, haven't we? We've seen a lot already. I just want to try to put a few things in perspective for myself and for anyone else who can sometimes feel a little bit overwhelmed by what's going on in the world, and to give a few ideas of how we can step up as elders and elders in the making to make a difference. In my lifetime, I've seen the collapse of communism. I've seen wars in the Middle East, famine in Africa, several recessions and stock market crashes. Many of us have lost faith in our institutions, our governments, our religious leaders. Life used to seem more certain. We knew, or we thought we did, what was right, what was wrong, who we could trust. Of course, now that we have the internet, and that's another innovation, isn't it, of our lifetime, we see what's going on. With the help of social media, citizen journalism tells us what's happening on the ground. We're not just reliant on our institutional news platforms like Fox News or BBC to tell us, to filter what we're going to see. We can feel connected to people in places where they're going through unimaginable hardships in ways that we could never have dreamed of before. We can see with our own eyes what's happening in the world. Of course, all these innovations also come with downsides as well as upsides. We're becoming increasingly more polarised in our views, and it almost seems as if we're being encouraged to hate each other. We're kind of retreating into these tribal groups, aren't we, where, we can feel that we belong or that we feel safe. The world has changed in many other ways as well, hasn't it? Thanks to globalisation, we've seen a collapse in our mass manufacturing industries and a move to a knowledge economy, where intellectual capital is more important than physical products. And now we're seeing that knowledge economy give way in its turn to an economy that's based on innovation and entrepreneurship. There are no more jobs for life. We don't get the gold clock. Short-term contracts are more common. Life has changed beyond all recognition for those of us of our age. We have to change, we have to evolve. But some changes make us feel uncomfortable and displaced. So how can we step up in a world that seems at times to have lost its mind? What role can we play as elders and emerging elders? Well, we can only make changes if we're prepared to make changes within ourselves. So these are my 8 suggestions. Number 1, we need to model resilience. We have lived through and overcome any number of challenges in our lifetime, whether those challenges be in our personal lives or in the wider world. So it's our responsibility to stay calm in the face of crisis, to reassure younger generations that they will survive too, and that better times will come, that life is cyclical, that it isn't always doom and gloom non-stop. We have this tremendous opportunity to model resilience and community spirit for our children. Number 2, we need to review our beliefs regularly. As children, we take on the beliefs of our parents, our carers, teachers, and society as a whole. And we come to believe that we know what is true. We believe there is an absolute truth. As we get older and we start to think for ourselves, we start to challenge those beliefs. We talk to other people, whether that's in a bar or in the hairdressers or at work, or we go to university and we learn more about the world and we find out different points of view. And we start to challenge what we've been told. We pick our own political party, and then we work, and we have families, and so the cycle begins again. But what if, for example, these political parties have evolved and changed since the time that we decided that they aligned with our views and beliefs? What if we are voting for an ethos that actually no longer exists, or that no longer really aligns with our values? We need to review all our beliefs periodically. We need to stay engaged with the world and not just settle, I know this and I vote this way, because things change. Number 3, We need to vary our sources of information. We all get into habits, don't we? We like to drink from the same coffee mug in the morning. We read the same newspapers, or these days, browse the same news channels. We like to have our beliefs confirmed and validated regularly, don't we? But if you come across a news article that's written from someone who clearly has a different viewpoint of the world than you, and it makes you feel uncomfortable, you need to read more of that. I'm not saying that we should abandon what we believe to be true, but living in an echo chamber isn't going to help anybody, and we need to challenge ourselves to listen to other points of view and to evaluate them piece by piece. We need to keep open minds, basically. That brings me on to number 4. We need to seek out people whose experience of life is vastly different to ours. Because the problem with absolute truth is that if one person is right, another person must be wrong. When an issue becomes black or white, there's a very different energy around that to when there are shades of grey. So we need to be open to nuances. I have to admit that I often turn away from opposing views to mine on social media and so on. But I'm very aware that I have a tendency to create that echo chamber where I don't challenge my own beliefs. It's uncomfortable to have our deep beliefs exposed and challenged. It's uncomfortable to have our unconscious biases exposed, but so necessary. Because that's the thing about bias and about prejudice, is usually we're not even aware that we have those biases and prejudices. It's easy and dangerous to think that everyone thinks the way that we do. We need to expose ourselves to people with different political opinions, people with different economic realities, people who have different experience of life to ourselves, people who are older, people who are younger, people from different races and cultures. It's all part of life's rich tapestry, and we lose so much when we shut ourselves off and live in this homogenous world in our minds. Number 5 is a difficult one. We need to listen without seeking to reply. All too often, somebody will say something to us, and while they're talking, in our minds, we're thinking, how am I going to reply to this? Or we start to relate it to something that's happened to us because that's the way we feel we can show empathy. Oh, that happened to me when, and so on. But actually it's not empathy, it's shutting that person down. We never learn anything new if all we ever talk about is what we already know. To really listen, we need to fully engage. We need to show that we're listening by asking questions, remaining silent and thoughtful, giving the person the space to speak. We can learn this through practice, and we learn so much more through it than just by parroting what we already know. And making someone feel heard is such a valuable thing. It's what we all want, isn't it? We all want to feel heard and appreciated for who we are, even if the person doesn't agree with us. At least we're heard. In a world where beliefs and policies, etc., have become increasingly polarised, we need to lead the way in listening before debating. Number 6, this is a hard one. We need to let go of our need to be right. None of us want to be proved wrong on something or admit that we're wrong on something. It shakes us to the core, doesn't it, to know that we're wrong. Plus, none of us want to look foolish or admit that we've made a mistake. That's human nature. But if we're so invested in our need to be right, we miss the opportunity to grow. It takes courage to be willing to be proved wrong. And it takes grace to admit it. Number 7, we need to check our thoughts. Nothing exposes our biases more than our unguarded thoughts. I'm not saying it's something that we need to do continuously, but we owe it to ourselves to call ourselves out with honesty and compassion so that we can change if needs be. Finally, number 8, know better, be better. It's really upsetting at times to realise that you've been wrong, especially when you've been so certain of your rightness. I try to live by Maya Angelou's exhortation. Be the best you can until you know better. And when you know better, be better. Cultivating an open mind, a desire to find out about others and to be the best we can be, benefits us as well as the wider community. It shows our children and the people around us that older people actually do have something worthwhile to say, that we're still relevant in the world. digging in and sticking with our old beliefs without any challenge ever is not helpful to anyone, least of all ourselves. Resist the urge to cling on to outdated beliefs. Even if you examine them and realise, well, yes, actually, I still think that that's right, and that still aligns with my values and my beliefs. At least you've had the courage to audit those beliefs. And the willingness to do that is what will keep you relevant as you age and part of the world. Sticking with a fixed mindset serves no one, least of all ourselves. In conclusion, it's easy, isn't it, to fall into this sense of helplessness when the world around us seems to be going to hell in a handcart. And of course it's true, we can't always affect what's happening on the world stage. All we can do is affect the way that we react to them, control our stress, and decide to live our lives despite what's going on around us in a way that supports us and those around us. This is our lives going by. The problems of the world are not going to sort themselves out in an instant, and we need to live. The change we want to see, though, starts with us. We have a responsibility to look within and make any changes that might be necessary for our own sakes, for the sake of the world, and for the sake of those coming up behind us. Together, we're stronger. Be happy.